You know, members, I've heard over and over about how this bill is not a bullying bill, and I'm starting to think that maybe that's true. Maybe it's not a bullying bill. Maybe, after all, it is just another voucher scheme. First, we said that we needed vouchers for students with disabilities. We have the McKay Scholarship. Okay, fine. Then we said we needed scholarships for low-income students. I get it. Let's do that as well. Then those voucher programs expanded to also include middle-class students and families. Now we're saying we need them for bullied kids as well. And next year there's going to be an expansion of the Hope Scholarship Program, inevitably, until we finally get to a place where we now have universal vouchers. And boom, public education as we know it has disappeared. One statute at a time, one budget line item at a time, one scholarship at a time, one voucher at a time. But let me get back to the bullying concept, because this is what really bugs me. What assurances do we have that bullied youth is going to be any better off in a private school than they are in a public school? We don't. They don't have any rules in private schools that they need to follow. I asked the sponsor yesterday, what was the baseline standard that bullied kids who deserve protection are going to at least have as their protection in private schools? He said, well, they have to follow the law. What laws? Okay, laws against assault and battery and physical abuse. Well, you know what? Not every kid gets punched in the face, and that's the bullying they receive. Sometimes the verbal and emotional abuse hurts so much more. At least in our public schools, every single one of the 67 school districts has to adopt an anti-bullying policy as outlined in the Jeffrey Johnston Safe Schools Act. That's an assurance they have in public schools that they don't have in private schools. And I looked at the Florida Department of Education website. They even provide to our public schools detailed resources and sensitivity training to help shape those district policies against bullying, including resources from GLSEN, which help schools understand how they can effectively protect, in particular, queer youth that is bullied. What are the assurances that they're going to be protected in private schools with the same policies? There are none. I asked the sponsor to give at least one example of one anti-bullying policy in any private school in Florida that would give me that assurance. He couldn't name one and said that he hadn't researched it. Hasn't researched the issue? This bill funds up to 58,000 students who are bullied to leave public schools and go to private schools. And we've not researched the issue on whether they're going to be any better off in a private school. How could we not have researched this? I think for too many bullied kids who are leaving public school to go to private school, it could get worse. Like bullied LGBTQ youth who continue to be relentlessly taunted simply for being who they are. And don't think that I'm just talking about some obscure issue or some special interest that I have an agenda for, because on the Florida Department of Education website, it has links to the GLSEN report that says the number 2 and number 3 reason students in Florida are bullied and across the country are bullied is because of their sexual orientation and their gender identity. This is not an obscure issue. And so many of these private schools that are receiving these vouchers, they're faith-based, and I don't have a problem with that, but I want to know how the faith-based private schools are dealing with bullied LGBTQ youth. Are they protecting them, or are they bullying them too? Institutional bullying. Maybe they're subjecting those kids to conversion therapy, which is one of the worst kinds of bullying that even parents are complicit in? How do I know that some of these students are not being bullied by their parents too? Because here's another reality. 40% of homeless youth, 40% of homeless youth across the country is LGBTQ. Their parents abandoned them. And now they have nowhere to go. So when the sponsors and supporters of this bill say the assurance that the child will be better off in a private school comes in the form of parental choice, that doesn't make me feel any better. Why? Because too many queer youth who are bullied in our public schools, they come home and they don't tell their parents about what's happened to them because they're ashamed. And also because they're scared. Because if they tell mom and dad, I was called names, I was called fag, I was called queer, they're afraid that their parents will also bully them and tell them that they need to change. And their unaccepting parents will bully them further. Do you understand what it's like for bullied kids to hear over and over again that if you don't change who you are, you're going to hell? Or how it feels when adults tell kids the same thing? What if your own parents told you that? It's no wonder that according to the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, that specifically in Florida, LGB youth are 3 times more likely to attempt suicide. The reason I bring this up is because with this voucher scheme, we are moving some of those vulnerable kids into private schools where it may get worse, and there are no assurances that they're going to be protected. Members, I can't vote for this. Don't be fooled. Vote no on this very, very bad bill. Our kids are not better off. Thank you.